Welcome to the Sack of Stats podcast. I am your host, Pam Maldonado, here to bring you all of the analytics behind the ATP bets. Today, I have with me one of my favorite tennis analysts on ever, and my people. I love him. Gill. He is host of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. He also is host of the Monday Match Analysis, which you can find on YouTube. If you are trying to learn tennis, it is his stuff that you want to watch because you will just learn so many things. So, Gill, thank you for hopping on today to talk to some Wimbledon with me.
Thanks, Pam. Incredibly kind words. Glad we could get together on this momentous occasion of Wimbledon. I want to say semifinals, but I have to take away the S.
Well, that's why I had you on. Initially, the whole plan was we're going to preview two semifinal matches. We have Novak Djokovic against Cam Norrie, British favorite. Yes, everyone's going to love him. And we would have had Nick Kyrgios against Rafael Nadal, and that was going to be an epic. Hopefully, it could have been an epic match. However, last hour or so, a WD from Nadal. Not entirely surprising, but still surprising because in my mind, that tells me it must have been really bad for him to have a WD. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he just couldn't serve. He did hit the practice courts this morning. So there was an MRI. MRI revealed tear in the abdominal. Then he went on the practice courts. Actually, I don't know the order, but he was on the practice courts, 45-minute practice. I hear he served a little bit, but it must have felt really off, as serving does when you have a torn abs. What I kept thinking about is, what did Novak do at the 2021 Australian Open to play through this same injury? Now, I think Novak's tear was in the oblique, and I think Rafa's tear is just in the front abs. Right. So I don't know if that's the difference, but yeah, I kind of thought Rafa would just play. I thought he'd play through it.
I think a lot of us thought he did because this is kind of like a similar situation that we've seen from Rafa before. Oh, I'm injured. He plays and wins. Oh, I'm injured. He plays through it and wins. He gets some type of treatment, something, and he doesn't tell us until after the fact, but something is always there for him, whether it's a painkiller, whether it's a steroid shot, something. This must have been a little bit more profound. It's maybe something that could require surgery is what I was reading. Where do you see Nadal? How much longer do you think we as fans, the community of tennis, has of Nadal? Because he is sustaining these injuries left and right. He's getting older. What do you think?
Yeah, he's not losing when healthy is the strange predicament that we're in. Like he might go into the US Open undefeated at majors. Right. I think I just can't see him based on especially what he's gotten used to in his career. He's clearly someone with a tolerance for the rehab process. I'm sure he hates rehabbing. There's nobody in the world who likes rehabbing. It's terrible, but clearly Nadal can tolerate it on a level that very few others can. And as long as this continues where Rafa's playing winning tennis and, he's not going to want to stop. I mean, he's also clearly someone who absolutely loves competing, like more than anything.
He loves the fight more than the win.
Exactly. Right. So if he needs to rehab his abs now for 2.5 months to get ready for the US Open, it'll all be worth it if he's on the court in New York and he's getting to compete.
So now he said with his withdrawal, he said, I don't want to go out there and not be competitive enough to play at my best. The most important thing to me is happiness over a title. He said that he didn't think that he could win 2 matches. So the argument that I have seen on Twitter all morning since the announcement of his WD is that he should have just forfeited his match against Fritz because now Fritz doesn't have the opportunity. My argument is Fritz didn't win that match. Rafa, he didn't know the severity of his injury. So yeah, why would he forfeit? Why would he say, okay, I'm just going to, surrender here. Fritz, it's yours. Fritz had his opportunities to win. He did not. Nadal was still the better player despite his injuries. He played around it. So I think it's the rightful outcome. It sucks for Fritz that he could be in this spot because Nadal is having a WD. But what is your opinion on people saying he should have just forfeited his last match, mid-match, retired? What do you think?
Yeah, it makes me angry. I'm with you. And I mean, very few things. I feel so strongly about this, if we're being honest. I can't believe I love Pam Shriver. She's great. I love Christopher Clary. He's great. I cannot believe that their support for this whole lucky loser business to advance a player in the tournament. I mean, I can't comprehend it. The problems that there are. First of all, if you lost, you lost. You're eliminated, right? I mean, Taylor could you imagine if Taylor got to win Wimbledon after losing? I mean, that just wouldn't make any sense. And
you win a full 5 sets, 5th set tiebreak. You had your chances. You lost.
So
I'm sorry
I don't even
that
feel
Nadal's
bad
a
for Taylor.
WD. No,
I don't. I feel bad. I feel bad for the fans and the event.
Yeah,
that's who it sucks for, and that would be the argument. Like, let's fix this. But I also saw something from Ben Rothenberg. This hasn't happened in 30 years. That I don't know if it was only men's or if it was men's and women's, but the last time there was a withdrawal, semifinals or later at a major, it was like Richard Krajicek 30 years ago. So we are going to sell the soul of tennis and allow
1992 Australian Open semifinals.
Dang. There you go. We're going to sell the soul of tennis and allow players to lose and then keep playing so that something that happens every 30 years can be prevented. It is absolutely crazy to me. And then I'll be done in a second, I promise.
No, I love that. No, keep going. I'm on your side.
What about prize money? Who gets the semifinal prize money, Fritz or Nadal? Nadal deserves it. He won the quarterfinal. That's your reward. Who gets the rankings points if Fritz loses in the semifinal? Fritz or Nadal? Nadal should get it. He won the quarterfinal. But now but now Fritz is playing the match. So what do you do with that? Like, it's just not well thought out. And I can't believe that there's advocacy for it.
Calling Nadal selfish is what I've been seeing. And that is foolish. That is foolish because then every player that goes on in WDs or decides he doesn't want to play his next football game or his next basketball game, whatever, nobody knows in the moment the severity of it. And the amount of injuries that the big three have had, you're talking about Roger Federer too, and Nadal, Djokovic, all of these players, you cannot tell in the 3rd, 4th set, oh, I know exactly that this is a 7-millimeter tear and it's going to require surgery in a month. Like, you have no idea. You just know that I need to win this match to give myself an opportunity to maybe rehab in time for the next. That is what Nadal is thinking. It's not selfishness. It's selfishness. If anything, in that he is a competitor, he is a fighter, he is not going to quit. And that's exactly what we saw. Fritz played a good match. Nadal played a better one, injured. And that just like, I don't think people understand, just like, he was playing with an abdominal tear in the front and his serve was like 90 miles per hour and Fritz couldn't win. Fritz could not beat that. That is just testament to the firepower of Nadal. He knew that he had to win from the baseline and he did. He kept the point short. He broke Fritz when he needed to. Like, it was such a fighter, and I'm all for it. I hope we see him at the US Open healthy, and yeah, maybe he stays undefeated. You never know. But then with that said, then Nick Kyrgios, this would have been his first semifinal of his career, facing Nadal, but now that he's a WD, it's an automatic walk into facing in his first final of his career. The thing that has caught my interest with Kyrgios, I have been like a Nick Kyrgios truther for years and years and years. I think this is the first year over the last couple of months that I'm just like, man, I'm tired of it. Just like, be gone. I'm tired of your antics. I'm tired of your mindset, just like not giving a shit. I'm tired. And now this tournament, I've seen like a different side of him that we've never seen before. Focused. Yes, he had all the drama against Tsitsipas, but in his post-match conferences is what's getting me intrigued, where he's talking about, I'm not going out afterward. I'm going home, I'm eating, and I'm going to sleep. Whoa. It sounds so easy, but this is Kyrgios, who's never done that. So, what are you seeing from Kyrgios in this tournament? What do you think has changed this year? Do you think we're going to see it continue?
Yeah. What I've seen changed for Kyrgios is how invested he is in winning the match. I know that sounds like really, really basic, but uh at the end of the day, his effort level used to not be there. And you can't be that successful if you are not playing with intensity in the way you're moving and in the way you're
Mhm.
focusing and competing. And Kyrgios is still mentally volatile. He will still
Oh, yeah.
yell at umpires. He will
Yeah.
still yell at his coaches. He will still cause a scene, have tantrums. None of that is different. He did that as soon as he came onto tour. He's still doing that now. That's the same. The difference is he used to say, "You're a terrible umpire. You suck. I'm upset," and start tanking. Now he's saying, "You suck. I'm upset. Can we replace all the lines judges? My coaches are useless." Actually, he doesn't have coaches. My team is useless, but he's still trying. He's still trying to win the match. So I think something clicked for him. And, he's talked about his off court happiness. He's talked about his girlfriend, where he somehow he's in a state of mind where he actually wants to get the most out of his talent and abilities. And as a result,
Mhm.
he's simply working harder on the court, and his effort level has been consistent.
Absolutely. One of the things that had caught my interest was almost exactly what you said, but he said, I am more mature now than earlier in my career. I would be on my phone, I would go out to dinner, I would explore. I made it pretty known to my team, however, that I wanted to run pretty deep in this tournament and possibly even raise a trophy. I've never once heard him previously, and I'm talking about even like 3 months ago previously, where he was talking about he doesn't care to win. He wants to put on a show for his fans. Now he's here saying, I want to win. That is entirely brand new to me. He's never really been a player that cares to go through. He's also talked about his regimens, how he doesn't train like other players. He doesn't rehab like other players. He doesn't do anything that other players should because he just wants to go home, relax, have fun, chill, and then show up for the next tournament. Do you think this is something that's going to stay? Or is this like right now only for Wimbledon?
I, huh. I actually haven't thought about this one.
Because I'm
I,
weary of saying that this is a
yeah,
new side to him. Is it just new because he's had a good draw and he's running this deep? Is he going to
yeah,
put in the work afterward?
okay. Here's what I'll say. First of all, I think he's actually been this guy in 2022. I think he's just had a good season every time he's been on the court. I think he's been pretty good. So I don't think it's fair to limit the scope of his improvements just to this tournament.
Right.
Like if you look at even him losing second round against Medvedev at the Australian Open, that was a match where I was impressed. I I thought he looked really good. Then Indian Wells, he makes the quarterfinal and loses a 3-setter to Nadal. He goes pretty far in Miami. He made
Round
the
of
round of
16.
16 in Miami. Yeah. So like this has been a pretty consistent year for him. Do I
Semifinal in Houston.
Yeah. His only clay event in the United States. That's kind of strange. Um, however, like, do I feel like this is definitely going to be the Kyrgios of the future? No, I just think unless he has made systematic changes to his um, mindset, his outlook, his mental health, um, unless that has happened, we could just be getting ups and downs, and this could just be an up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope we get this version of Kyrgios. I hope he stops being so abusive to on-court officials. I hope
Oh
that
yeah.
he is not abusive in his relationships as he is being charged of. He has a court date. He hasn't been convicted. Nothing has been proven. But I hope that these things can be cleaned up, because I think more than other players, what state of mind he's in, his mental health, that's very closely tied to his tennis.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly one of the reasons why I've always been such a defender of Nick, because of the talent that he has, the raw talent. And I just said, if you even cared 2%, just 2% more than what you do now, you can go out and win a major. He's never had that interest. This year, I was like, all right, I'm over your shit because of the way he's been treating the officiating. It's just like, fine if you want to like break your racket and like slam the ground. But then once you start portraying that anger onto others, you're wrong. It's disgusting. I'm over it. So I'm not saying I'm back to being a fan of his. And that's the difference between Nick Kyrgios. It's so mind-boggling to me that people can look at Novak Djokovic and be like, "Oh no, I don't like any of that." He's getting mad at himself. He's getting mad at his own, like, I should have gone that point and I did it. And he's like hitting his hand and he's like, the racket, and is hitting the ground and he'll even hit the net, whatever. But Nick Kyrgios is portraying that to the linesman, to the officiator, to the chair ump, to his opponent. I mean, and so it's like, and yet people love him. People are crazy. People are crazy.
I'm with you. There's nothing Novak has done on court has been in the same stratosphere as the things Nick have done.
And yet he's the bad guy and he's the entertainer.
Yeah.
Nick Kyrgios, good for the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm able to take like my emotion out of this question. And I think so many fans aren't, they say,
Right.
I hate him. I can't stand him. He's terrible for the game. And, look, I'll just say this, like during the Tsitsipas Kyrgios match, I saw Bill Simmons tweeting about tennis. I had two people text me who my jaw dropped that they were watching tennis. Two of my buddies who would never watch tennis, they were watching. My video on Tsitsipas Kyrgios got over 30,000 views. That is more than the Nadal Ruud Roland Garros final. Not Nadal Djokovic range where that got over 50, but more than Nadal Ruud. So like,
for the game, people want to pay attention.
People care. People care. People are in, young people and a lot of casuals.
McEnroe, Kyrgios. How are their antics different from each other? How is their anger, their I'll say their fire? How is their fire different?
Yeah, I think John probably was a little more performative, and I think he would blow up at an umpire, and it would be somewhat strategic, both for himself and his opponent, to disrupt the rhythm. I don't doubt that he was angry as well, but it would be, you hear the things he said. It was almost like he was acting, you cannot be serious. That ball was on the line. Like exactly. It felt very performative to me. Nick just won't give it up.
He just seems mad.
It'll go on. Exactly. And it'll go on for 30 minutes. Every changeover, he'll be saying something. So I think that for John, it's kind of like, we're going to have a moment. I'm going to yell at you, and then we're going to move on. For Nick, it's like almost exhausting.
I can definitely see that. And you're exactly right. Like, once it starts, it's really hard for him to he doesn't ever cool off. He keeps that anger through the match. And then you see it in his press interview afterward, where he's like, I already answered that question. And so now he's continuing that anger to the media. And it's never ending. It's never ending. Enough of that. We're going to talk about now the semifinal of Wimbledon, the one semifinal that we do have on the ATP side. And it is Cam Norrie, the British player. What is he? The South African born British player, Cam Norrie, against Novak Djokovic, 6-time Wimbledon champ. I am saying Norrie doesn't have a chance. Everyone's already saying it's going to be a Djokovic who will end up facing Kyrgios in the final. I'm leaving it as such. Norrie, I would be surprised if this goes 5 sets. This is Novak to me at 4 sets or better. The game spread for this is 7.5. The game total for this is 31. How do you see this going?
I'm with you. So Norrie does a couple things. Norrie does a bunch of things well. He moves the ball around the court very nicely. So that's kind of in substitute of power. It's more about changing direction and precision, and he's going to make you run. And his best attribute are his legs, where, he just has incredible endurance. He'll never get tired of running himself. But, against Novak, you're not going to outsteady him. You're not going to limit unforced errors better than him. So you'd think you need a little firepower. You need some finishing power to bother him. And I just, Norrie's not the kind of player, even like a Sinner is, who can do things offensively that are really going to disrupt Novak in a big way. So like, if I think about how can Norrie win, it's making the match really physical. It's getting to the lungs. It's making it a grind. Is that possible on a grass court against Novak's weapon with the way Novak's serving?
When his serve, Norrie, I saw it was actually a tweet that you retweeted, and it was 71% of Cam Norrie serves are being put back into play. I think he was the second worst in here at Wimbledon on the ATP side.
Or I think
in the court, yeah. And you're going up against Novak Djokovic, who's the best returner in the world. And I've talked about all the time, like, he's the best returner. He is the best returner. But I think what people aren't really understanding is what exactly that means. And when I say that Novak is the best returner in the world, he's not just putting balls back into place, but one, his flexibility is going to be talked about most often, just because you see him look like, Gumby out there on the court, lying flat on the floor as if he's Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. That's the meme everywhere. But yes, his flexibility is one thing. But all of his balls come back with pace, and they come back with depth. So his returns are like at the baseline. So it's putting players into defense automatically on their own serve. And then I think the thing that people also overlook, and it's more of like a tennis analysis rather than like a general viewpoint, but like Novak's ability to read serves is like, there's nobody on the planet who can read it like he does. Now, when I say that read serves, there is a split-second moment when somebody tosses the ball before it's in the air, before it hits that racket. This split-second moment is where Novak is squinting and he's seeing where's that ball's going to go. Either you're going to hit it on the tee, you're going to go for the wide, whatever it is, Novak is able to read it, and then boom, it comes back with pace. He puts it away. He is the best returner on the planet. And God, I don't know. Now he's going to destroy Cam Norrie's little weak serve.
To add to that, Cam is a lefty, and lefties have some advantages generally. They serve to righty backhands, and they get the ball wider on the righty backhand than a righty could serving to a righty because of the spin that moves off the court on the ad side. And to add to that, no pun intended, most of the most important points are played on the ad side. Break points at advantage out or 30-40, those are played on the ad side. So in that sense, lefties usually have this nice advantage. Obviously, when Novak not only is as good a returner as he is, but has as good a backhand return as he does, he is uniquely suited to deal with that slice serve out wide on the ad side, or even the slice serve tee on the deuce side. It's a serve that Cam is going to use a lot against righties, right? But against Novak, you just don't get the same purchase out of that. Not to mention, I think Djokovic's worst returns are kick serves when it gets high above his shoulders, that we see on clay sometimes. And Cam hits a slice serve, and on grass it stays low. So he needs to be very careful to try to keep the ball out of Novak's strike zone. But you're right, there's going to be a lot of returns in play by Novak in general.
Do you think the only thing that Cam Norrie has going for him is that he is a British player, and this British crowd is going to just absolutely be on his side? The problem with that is that Djokovic thrives when the crowd is against him. He's one of the best. I think another underrated thing is that Novak Djokovic is not only the best player when it comes to skill set, but it's also the best player because 99% of the time, he's not only facing his opponent, but he's also facing the crowd. So he has had to be even better to combat both. So the previously before this, Djokovic has played 4 British players here at Wimbledon. He's 3-1 in those matches, with his one loss being Andy Murray back in 2013 final. But the other 3, 2 of those went to 4 sets, and one of them was Jack Draper last year's opening match. Do you think Norrie has an ability here to take off a set, if not for his skill set, by the help of the crowd?
What did you think of? I want to dig into the effect of a crowd being against Novak. What did you think of the Rafa match in Paris where he got booed walking out onto the court? Because, the more I thought about it, I think Djokovic was a little discouraged by it. And I just thought emotionally it took a little bit out of him.
I mean, at some point, I think at some point it's really hard for that, because like it's messing with his emotions, because at the 2021 US Open, they were actually on his side. That is something that you never see. They were chanting his name. They were rooting for him during big points. And I think that made him emotional, because it's like, what? You're rooting for me? And then now you come back and do it into Paris against Nadal, and you're like, oh, well, it's back against hate. We love Nadal. No, Djokovic. It's just messing with his emotions. And he's been in this for how long doing this? So it's like, yeah, I think he is human after all.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think his incredible performance in 2019 against Roger, when the crowd, you could hear a pin drop when Novak won a point, and it was crazy. It was bananas whenever Federer won a point, right? And Novak had that incredible performance. I think that has maybe shifted the narrative a little bit too much towards Novak is totally fine if the crowd is pulling against him in general. Now, caveat, I think this will be different because I think he's so prepared for the crowd to support Norrie. And I think he'll have a full understanding of it, because Cam is British and an amazing underdog story on top of it. So, I actually think he'll be completely unbothered this time. But I just wanted to have that discussion just more in general terms. And I could be convinced, actually, that he is going to make sure, more than in an ordinary match, that he doesn't allow Cam to ever get the crowd into it. If he's up 2 sets to love and he's up a break, that he's going to just be a little bit sharper, because he doesn't want to allow that I would say boost of violent energy that
he
would
doesn't even
happen.
Want to open up the door. He doesn't want to even give him a sliver of hope.
Right. Like what does a great road team do? They keep the crowd quiet. They find a way to just keep them out of it. And Novak might, I think he'll really want to, this will be his plan, to really limit Cam's momentum in terms of any like major run of points and stuff. He's going to want to keep the temperature down if he can.
Oh, that makes sense. So for me, though, if I were betting this, I have a Djokovic at plus money to win Wimbledon. So I'm probably not touching this, because I know he's making the final. There's not really a wager to make on the money line, because he's minus 1,600. That's up from 1,400 earlier. Cam Norrie to win a set, you're getting him at plus money at plus 130 to win a set. I have more confidence in Djokovic. This is not going 5, that much I know. But for him to win 3-1, you're still getting plus money at plus 250. I still don't even have confidence in that, because I think this can definitely be done in 3 sets. The only thing that I would have considered is the game spread. Now, the game spread opened at 7. That I personally snagged. Now it's up to 8. I don't like it anything past 7, because I'm asking for 1 break of serve in a straight set match. If you're getting anything past 7, you're asking for a double break if this goes 3. Now with the game spread at 8, do you think a double break in any set could happen? They have only 1 head-to-head match. It was at an ATP Cup, so I really don't give that hold too much weight. It was 6-2, 6-1 Novak. Now, what do you think about a double break being a possibility?
I think 8's too much. I think if anything, it seems like a better idea to just bet Novak to win in straights rather than do the 8, right? Because that I believe is, I think it's like
It's minus 180.
Okay, 180. That's crazy.
That's a big risk for because of the crowd. I'm saying it definitely could go for because of the crowd, and maybe
Yeah, but
Novak. What we've seen from him is he can kind of have a blunder, but
I
180 is
like
too
that
big
better
for
than
me.
I like that better than the 8 though, because
Right.
obviously if Norrie wins a set, the 8 isn't going to hit in
That's
all
not true.
likelihood. No?
Reithoven won a set and he still didn't cover a 7-game
True.
spread. So I know that
Okay.
I know there are people who took Reithoven plus 7, and I said no, I'm going to take him to win a set, because what happens with Novak Djokovic, the greatest player in the world right now, other than Nadal? What does he have the capability of doing? Taking it to a third, fourth, fifth gear, whatever gear here he feels like he needs in order to get it done. And that's exactly what happened. He turned on the turbocharge, and then he just like ripped Reithoven a new one afterward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I guess it's a little
It's a good line.
it is a good line. I think it's, I I lean Novak in straights. Obviously the market reflects that.
Agrees.
So I just think on grass in general, and I do respect Cam's ability as a server, even though he's not going to get a lot of free points with it. I do think that he's pretty good at controlling play behind his serve. On a grass court, I just feel like tiebreak sets very possible, and do I like him to keep it close
There won't be a
play his
tiebreak
best?
in this
Yes,
match.
but you don't think so?
No,
Just the serves aren't big enough. Yeah.
not at all. Not at all. There's no skill set. I always like to. So I did an article for Yahoo where I talk about how player A can win, how player B can win, and I said Norrie can't win. There is no skill set that he has that Novak Djokovic cannot combat and figure out in a best of 5. If this was in a best of 3, maybe in a lesser tournament because that's more volatility, but in a best of 5, he's going to figure it out. He's going to make the adjustments. He can make an adjustment mid-game. That's what he's so good at. That he can make an adjustment mid-set. Definitely he's going to make the adjustment in a best of 5. He's not, this isn't going 5. I think for me, the only option that I have honestly is to kind of assume that this is at worst going 4, and I would probably there's nothing for me to bet. There's nothing for me to bet, unfortunately. I don't think. And that's okay. We save it for the Nick Kyrgios Djokovic final.
I did a similar thing on my preview of okay, how can Cam win? And again, I said what he would need to do. I think Djokovic would need to be tight. And when he's tight, what happens is his offense goes away. He doesn't start missing. Even tight Djokovic makes it in the court.
Right.
But his offense goes away. And if his offense goes away, that's when Norrie can really drag out the rallies. And I do think he has better cardio than Novak at this point in his career. Novak used to have superhuman cardio. Now he just has good cardio, but it's not as insane as it once was. And I mean, Norrie just needs to make this so physical, and that just seems so hard. If this were a very slow hard court, like Indian Wells, that would be the conditions that I would most. Obviously Novak heavy favorite, even if they played on Mars. But if I were to choose conditions to help Norrie, it would be a very slow hard court.
Then here is one option, taking the over on 30.5 games, because if you think that there's a possibility that he can at least grind this out for even one set, then yeah, maybe this can go 7-5, 7-6, at least in one. So that way 30.5 can kind of protect you from Novak. Maybe there being a tie break and Novak can still win straight.
I've never live bet.
I've never
live bet I've never in my life. I don't do it. However, just a thought, how Norrie, the energy of the match and how Norrie is handling the nerves. I think it's going to be evident pretty quickly. Right. I like if Novak jumps on him early and starts rolling, man, I think it might be a hard train to turn around for Cam Norrie. But I could also see, if I could see Novak feeling the pressure of the situation, he really needs to win Wimbledon. at this point. So there is a lot of pressure on him. And if Cam is like, I'm the underdog, I have the crowd on my side, I have nothing to lose here.
Nothing to lose.
And right. And he has that kind of freewheeling energy, and Novak looks a little like he's feeling the stress of the situation. That's how this match goes for. That's how Cam Norrie covers. So I feel like you'll be able to feel that in the match probably pretty quickly.
He's not winning. Norrie's not going to take this to 5. This is not going 5. I'm guaranteeing you that.
Well, that would shift, right? We know that. Let's say Cam feels super free and he's in the moment, and he's got the crowd, and Novak feels stressed. What happens when Cam is?
He wins 1 set. This goes 4. Take the over on the live bet, and then take the under, because then they're going to assume, like in the 4 set, let's say this does go 4 sets. At the end of 3 sets, you live bet the under, because Djokovic is probably going to win something like 6-2 in the 4th, and be like, all right, that's enough. Up his level, gets it done.
If Cam gets a lead, we likely see a Jannik Sinner situation.
Yeah.
We see the mental dynamic shift. I mean, that's the thing about Djokovic's run through Wimbledon. And I mean, it would have been similar for Nadal if he had played the semifinal. There's not experience. He's not playing experience. So, and he's also not playing
Andy Murray.
Yeah, his projected quarterfinal was Alcaraz, right. And Carlos has that kind of freewheeling spirit about the way he plays right now. So right. I don't know.
The live betting, I'm thinking of the live betting situation. If this ends up being like in the 1st set, okay, it's kind of looking competitive. Everyone's on serve. It's 2-2, it's 3-3, it's 4-4. I'm thinking, what are the odds going to shift to? I am trying to look for a Djokovic at -6.5 or better, because it is that 1 break of serve in a straight set victory.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on though about the number that you don't want to go over. With the straight sets, 1 break of serve in each set. After that, it starts to feel like, okay, like this is Cam Norrie. He's no schlum. Like, we got to give him some respect here.
Yes, we will give him respect to
not get crushed.
To not get crushed. And I say by crushed, the likelihood, there is a chance that yes, he can win in 4 sets. And based off of the Djokovic's history facing British players, not excluding Andy Murray because he lost that one, even Jack Draper, he had the ability to take off a set off of him. Can Cam Norrie take off a set? Yes. I think if there's 2 wagers to make pre-match, it would be you take the over on 30.5 games, or you take Cam Norrie to win 1 set at +135. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is waiting on the live line to see if you can get Djokovic at -6.5 games or better. And that would only happen early on in the 1st set if it is being competitive. If Novak comes out of the gate and he's already like broken him right out of the gate, that 6.5, that line right now of 8.5 is already going to jump to like 9.5. I wouldn't take the plus games because I have no idea how the rest of the match is going to go. Look for momentum shifts. If the crowd is like really helping him and you see like, okay, maybe he's starting to get like a pep in his step, then maybe you can back him like to win the 2nd set or win the 3rd set if he's serving first in either one of those. And if it seems like Djokovic is rattled. But I think right now for me, that's what I'm going to be looking for on the live line, to take Djokovic -6.5 games at some point. And if it never happens, it never happens. I'm going to save my bankroll for the Kyrgios Djokovic match.
One more nugget. I like that you got the British thing, so I wanted to bring my own. Djokovic semifinals at Wimbledon. He's won 6 in a row. He started his career having lost 3 out of his first 4. And one of them was actually a retirement against Nadal in 2007 in the semifinal. I didn't even realize that Djokovic retired in a semifinal. Okay, then obviously played Federer in 07, and then he played Federer in the final and lost it. Nadal did. So he's been pretty unbeatable at this stage.
And is he winning those in straight set matches or?
So last year was in straights against Shapovalov. Shapo had his opportunities in the first set, but it ended up being a matter of the pressure. Like that was a match where Shapo actually had the level to compete with Novak toe to toe, but then whenever things got tight on the scoreboard at the end of sets, Shapo just cracked. So it was
Cam
7-6.
Norrie does have a better mindset than Shapo.
Yep. So it was 7-6, 7-5, 7-5. The semifinal in 2021, 19 was a classic Djokovic bad matchup in Roberto Bautista Agut, who Novak hates playing. And it was a 4-setter, which is kind of what you can expect when those two play, at least in best of 5. And then, 2018 was the brilliant Djokovic Nadal 10-8 in the 5th for Djokovic. 2015 was straight sets against Gasquet. 2014 was 4 sets against Dimitrov, who is so good in that tournament. And then 13 was a 5-set epic against Del Potro. So he's really played a lot of
tougher opponents.
But there's a mixed bag.
Mixed bag.
Common thread is he's winning them all.
He is winning them all, and only one of those I heard went to 5 sets. The Del Potro one.
Yep, that's it.
So, Novak in 4. That's what I am predicting. I'm not at all saying this could go 5. It's not going to. If anything, yes, Cam Norrie can take off a set at plus 135. It is worth a grab. I'm going to be looking to the live betting situation, and if nothing happens, then that's okay. I'm going to be looking forward to the Nick Kyrgios versus Djokovic final here on Sunday. I don't want to talk about that match yet. I want to save it for another pod because I want to be a little bit more in depth. Let's break it down and let's talk about it. Strengths, weaknesses, history, everything. We'll talk about it all. What do you think? You want to hop on for that one? I'm committing you.
Yeah, no promise, but I will put it at minus 200.
Minus 200. Djokovic. Yeah.
No, I'm saying minus 200.
Yes.
I will be able to join you. Yes.
Well, then predict the line. Now that you've put me on that thought, what do you think? How much of an underdog do you think Kyrgios would be to Djokovic?
I say
2-1 at least.
I was gonna say 180.
Okay. We're sticking around the 200 range. We'll see what happens. Gill, thank you so much for hopping on today. You can follow all of his stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Gill_Gross on Twitter. You can see his stuff on Monday Match Analysis on YouTube. You can also find him on the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. Thanks for joining me. I'm super excited for the potential final, not the semifinal. I hope you are too. So thanks for having on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pam. Pleasure as always.
That does it for another episode of Stack of Stats.